This morning, Creator Father God, Yahweh, indicated to me He wanted me to confess my sin. Confess my less than optimal choices. Confess my recently really bad experience. I'm hoping that He's not doing that to isolate me, because I think I'm going to lose some of you. And the crazy thing is, the other day I was thinking about making a video because I was losing people. And I watch the numbers occasionally. They don't fluctuate much. But when I share with you this stuff, I'll probably lose a few of you. And I'll probably get some notoriety, and I'm going to get more subscribers just out of curiosity. As they say, any publicity is good publicity. But in this particular case, I don't think so. I mean, being played for a fool and taking the short route, hoping that it would yield fruit, was my error. And I am going to be revealing this to you in great detail for two reasons. One is the police don't believe me. And I'm hoping somebody out there will find the hard evidence that I need. However, I have to tell you right now, I don't think the police are going to care, even if I come up with that. They don't want to put the criminals in prison. They don't want to waste their money prosecuting them. They want to turn us into inmates. They want to prosecute us. And so it says in the Old Testament, there will come a time when you will look for a policeman and a fireman, but you won't find them. And I realize that is kind of what's going on right now, because the police are non-functional. They don't function as police officers. So I don't know what to call them. But one of my brothers, I call him Big Brother, because even though he's younger than I, he knows this stuff better than I. He knows the Bible better. Tells me they're just there to protect the corporations and make sure the corporations don't have losses. And it's sad, because I was robbed of about a little over $4,000 worth of stuff, and appears I'm not going to be able to get that back. The police aren't interested in pursuing charges against this woman, and they don't believe me. And the sergeant, when I called him up, because I wanted to make this part of the report a possible capital crime that may likely unsolved, and the officer told me he wasn't going to investigate that any further. Now, I don't know about you, but in my book, the laws are there saying if you don't report that stuff, you've committed a crime. But the police officer's not even going to look to see if this woman, to identify the woman, which I don't think is going to take much time. Not for him in his position. They've got all kinds of records on all of us. And I can't help but wonder if the police have gotten some aspect to my medical records, and it might be buying into some bad, wrong diagnoses. So I don't trust law enforcement at all today. I was supporting the police, but with this recent experience, I can't support them. I always figured that I would do my best to help them. And if an officer was down or in trouble, I would draw my arm and defend him. But at this point, my thinking is that they're best avoided. Lorraine. Come on, it's a puppy dog. Quiet. Down. That bark is so loud, it cuts right through my head. She's got a spirit. A strong one. Strong spirit. Strong key. What did I say? Good down. Good girl. I believe Yahweh wants me to share this stuff so that you might have an understanding of sociopathy and sociopaths. Because we're dealing with more of that all the time. And the officers appear to be negating us in our reports, our stories. They don't believe us. They don't want to believe us. They don't want to do their jobs. So they're not protecting us. So we really don't have police officers, as far as I can tell. We have people who are willing to go after the law-abiding. You know, he asked me the hot questions, and I answered him. And I was pretty open and pretty candid. And it's embarrassing to be conned. However, I've had experience. I tried to marry a woman. I actually did marry her in 2005. And after I married her, my parents met her. My mother was extremely disturbed by this young lady. And for the first time ever, my mother chose her son's side. Everybody else was right except for me until then. It was the first time my mother supported me. It was kind of funny in a way. It's kind of nice to have her support. But my mother told me she was a professional. I'm like, okay. She says, well, you wouldn't want to be had by an amateur, would you? And so it was with this woman that I met. I don't know if I want to call it a date or not at this point, because all she did was predate upon me. She drugged my ass, and she went through my place. And I have a vague recollection of that because I remember the bright lights, and I remember her over me at the foot of the bed, and I was sleeping, and I couldn't move. But yet I was aware of the bright lights, and I could hear the cupboards and drawers open and close. And she found my suppressed firearm, which was wedged into a kind of a deep cubby hole right against the walls of the motorhome. There's no way for anything to fall back there. The officer, he doesn't believe me. He says, is there any way it could be back there between the wall and the whatever? No, there's not a lot of space in here. And of course, I would have shown it to him if he wanted to see it. But at this point, he doesn't believe me. I don't want him around. I have posted the police report on another video, the one in which I cover the fact that I no longer support the police. I support their militias. And remember that you've been offered another false dichotomy. That is, support the police or support the anarchy. No in between. Well, the militia is actually the real solution. Because with the militia, you have it better organized than it is today. Believe me, law enforcement and keeping the peace would be far better with our own militias. But those people in central power aren't going to allow it. Even though that's specified in the Constitution, we're denied that part of our Second Amendment rights. I've been trying to make that point with the Second Amendment community, that you don't have your rights because you can't form a militia. That's part of the Second Amendment. And the Constitution mentions several times in there the duties of the militia. It's like, I remember 2 times, somebody else told me 4 times and showed it to me. The duty of the militia: quell insurrections and defend the borders, are explicitly stated in the Constitution. However, the militias were also to keep the peace and to police. They had the policing powers. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't vigilante justice. The militia would take the man into custody and deliver him to the sheriff for holding, or take him before the judge. And then the sheriff would hold him till they could get him before the judge. And they had an incredible system. We were free men, so when we took a man into custody, we posted the bond. So that if he beat the charges, we were wrong and he was found innocent and he was in prison unable to work, we would have to pay him his wages that he lost. That's right. An inmate told me that when I was working in Florence. I found it incredible. But then I asked some more questions. And you don't resist arrest. You say, I accept. Where's the bond? In other words, if you're making the charge, you have to put a bond up. So even the sheriff would have to put a bond up. So they have to put money up that becomes the charged persons if they're found not guilty. Because while they're in prison, they've lost their time there, and so we compensate them for that. So it's completely inverted today. Now we require them to post a bond. That shouldn't be the way it is. I have a lot to attend to. You might not hear from me that much. In case you're wondering, I would call it a love fraud thing, event. She disorganized my place so much and made such a mess that I did what she actually really wanted, which was end things, because she had already found the prize. She already got the firearm with the suppressor, my arm with the other arm, my arms. She got those. Got the best that I have. And I can't replace those very easily. However, she also got the best of the police, from what I can tell. You see, sociopaths understand the psychological contract. They understand the social rules better than you or I do, and they use those against us. So that's the nature of a sociopath, and they run circles around us, and they plan contingencies for anything. I've had 3 of them in my life that were women. I've had others as well, but I've had 3 of them that I've had close calls with. The last one cost me a lot. I actually took her to court. I prevailed. I garnished some of her wages, and I recovered a little bit of money, but it cost me at least 5 times or more than that than what I collected, and I wasted a lot of time. That was the biggest problem for me. Kept hoping she would actually not be a sociopath and would come around, and she kept playing my heartstrings. Well, this young lady will do that if I let her. I'm not going to let her. So I've decided I'm going to pursue compensation from her and her father in a very constitutional, legal way, at a distance. I'm not going to bother with the police anymore. They're non-functional gear. They aren't going to care if I come up with the video that she streamed of us live on the internet in my bedroom. They aren't going to care if I come up with a hair sample showing that she used roofies on me. I don't even know if that's possible. Of course, I cut my hair again today, not even thinking about that. So I'm going to have to do, well, I guess it would be armpit hairs. I have to call the doctor's office when I get a chance about that. I have to tell you, I was naive and I was had. This woman's a professional. She's one step away from being a hitman. And she's got my arm, which would be perfect for that sort of activity. She's got my arms, which is the same setup the Israeli Mossad uses. How do I know that? Because I became friends with the fellow who does the ammunition and tunes them up. And he told me they switched. They were using some sort of suppressed 22 with a specific ammunition, and they went from that to what I had. I didn't buy it for such purposes. And I had a lot of hearing loss, so I spent a lot of money getting a suppressor. And the advantage of that, if I have to shoot inside the house, I wouldn't have to go deaf, and my dog's hearing wouldn't be damaged. Excuse me. So I'm prepping you because I'm going to tell you the full story, and I'm going to ask for some help out there. I want to find that video. Yes, it's embarrassing. Yes, it is. But I want to find it. And I'd like to give that to the police to see if they might be interested in taking this young lady off the streets. Because what she did to me, she's done to other men. She's a professional at this stuff. And so she drugs us up, takes advantage. She's a super predator. We're not talking about an antisocial personality disorder here. Even inside the penitentiaries, you can ask the inmates who the super predators are, who the real badasses are. And they know who they are. They recognize them better than you or I do, much better. And not only that, those guys can... I asked the fellow what the percentage was, and his percentage lined up with Martha Stout's book, The Sociopath Next Door. Now, why is it important you pay attention to me and listen to my not so good choices? So that you can learn. So that you can learn what a sociopath is, what a sociopath does. Because the people that have taken over the country have a sociopathic culture. And in order to understand them and fight them, you need the tools. So that's why you want to tune in. I'm not real happy with myself. I'm not real happy with what I'm going to be revealing to you. I'm not real happy for the exposure. But she deceived me. Seriously. And the last time I saw her, she was very sweet and together, and nowhere near the wreck that she became when she was here with me, or when I picked her up. And I know that her family drugs her up and sends her out, and they know exactly what she does. She's more intelligent than her father, for sure. And of course, when a sociopath gets a psychologist, they take great pride in that. She got me, and she's a professional. The last one I was involved with was in Indianapolis. It's not doing very well from what I can tell, but nothing's going to change. This one that I met, I can tell you what I believe her method is. I can't prove it. I don't have that kind of pharmacological knowledge. And I expressed it to the police officer. He has a good memory. Very tall fellow, sharp. And I think he writes things down, but I don't think a sergeant's worth anything. I think a sergeant's he shouldn't be in the position he's in. Because he wrote a report saying, I claimed that the father committed a capital crime with my gun. And I'm like, that makes no sense. I don't know anything about that. I didn't say that. So the sergeant's a lying motherfucker. And I'm going to tell you right now, the police are a bunch of liars. That's right. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm all for putting a death sentence, making that available at least, on a cop killer, on someone who kills a police officer, harms an officer. But I want the officers wearing blue, the color of the blue wings of the butterfly, the poisonous butterfly that the Roman blue toga was taken from. That's the color of poison in nature. And the message was, don't fuck with them or you're going to die. You got it? Forgive me for my cussing and my horrible language, and pray for me on that again, please. However, I'm willing to make it available provided one thing. When a police officer lies, now the sergeant may have made a mistake, but the police officer I had no credibility because the sergeant claimed that I reported that. Now, I don't think I uttered anything. Well, I could have said something that the sergeant would have been confused about. That would be acceptable. But I know I didn't say that he committed it. I was worried he would. I expressed that. But for me to say he committed it, I don't know that. I have no way of knowing that. And besides that, everything his daughter told me, I don't believe any of it. And I told the officer that. But this is an unsolved capital offense. It's an unsolved murder. Is that officer not obligated to at least do the research to find out if it's possible? And the research in this would just be a matter of identifying family members and seeing if anyone's missing. Nobody's missing, then obviously nobody's murdered. If somebody's missing or somebody's been murdered and there's been no resolution on that, or there's been an erroneous medical exam on that needs to be revisited, that's a different story. But I regard this officer as negligent. He's not doing his duty. He's not doing his job. And he assisted the criminals in gaslighting me. I have no doubt this young lady sweet-talked that officer and made herself into the victim again. That's what they do. The pity party is the telltale sign. When they tell you how they're the victim, and her father told me how he was the victim as well. And I just listened at that point. I didn't drop my guard with him. I dropped my guard with her and tried rescuing her. Dumbass I am. Yeah, that's how they catch good guys. That's how they catch me. And they catch most psychologists that way. And most psychologists don't even realize what's in front of them, don't even realize what's going on. I realize she had her method. She's been doing this a long time. We're going to go into details about that. Why? I don't want her harming anybody else. And I want you to understand that sociopathy is not a male thing. It's not strictly men. There are more female sociopaths than there are male sociopaths. And don't ask me to give you a percentage. There's slightly more female sociopaths percentage-wise than male sociopaths for certain. And it's growing all the time. Why? Because the system we live in, the judicial system, enables them. That's why you have these problems between men and women. Women are given all the power. And you ladies out there, you wonder why you can't get a man or have a man friend. It's because law and the courts and the judges empower you over us, and we don't get a fair shake. We can't get a fair shake. All of my life, a woman can get away with murder pretty well. A man will get an average of 25 years, let's say, or he'll get killed, he'll get capital punishment. But a woman, on average, the average man was getting, I think, 21 years when I was a teenager for a murder. The average woman was getting 7 years for a murder. Not very fair. And women kill their children and get away with that all the time. I think the woman I tried to marry, well, my female friend with a master's level, who was very intelligent, a black woman in Tupelo, Mississippi, told me she thought that woman was trying to poison me. I didn't believe her. Her intuition was spot on. I found the herbs on the shelf. Yeah, she was willing to fix me a specific drink. And you can bet that crap was in it. It builds up over time, gives a man a heart attack that's so natural that it's almost never detected. It takes a little while, but it kills you. And they get away with it. It doesn't show up. Doesn't show up on the toxicology tests. Yeah, they can do that. Doesn't take hardly anything to Google that and find that out. So I want you to understand sociopathy. I want you to get an idea as to how to recognize it. And I need you to understand something. When you have your first rodeo with a sociopath, you're going to lose. And you're not even going to realize it. But as Martha Stout wrote in her book, you might catch a glimpse of them as you're walking away. And as you're walking away, run. Don't take them on. You can't win. They're masters at their craft, masters of deception, and they've been laying all the contingencies already. So they know how to jump from contingency to contingency to harm you. It's their job. They major in it. They think about that shit constantly. They constantly plot against you. They constantly plot against us. And most sociopaths aren't in the penitentiaries. Most sociopaths are brilliant and they walk freely among us. A lot of them are people that you respect. Politicians and CEOs. That's right, a lot of them are in the corporations. I hope you're picking up on this, because we're going to be dealing with it for a while. And I'm not looking forward to what I'm going to be telling you. It's extremely embarrassing. But I'm going to be telling you about all three women that I've had these experiences with, but especially the last one. She's still out there. Am I going to dox her? Well, I think I don't know. No, I don't know really. I think you'll have to come back for that one to find out, if you don't mind. This will be continued. And I smile eagerly, knowing that I probably got you on the edge of the seat at this point. Go ahead and share this. It's going to be one hell of a show. I promise you. It's not going to be anything you've heard before. Because we got to get into this. Because we got a nation to save. I was sent to you for this purpose. I'm going to do Yahweh's will. Yahweh set up my meeting with that woman and made that happen. It was of Yahweh. He wanted it to get me off my ass and to do my job, which is to train you. So training is about to begin. May Yahweh bless. I'm going to be moving about and doing a lot of things, so I'll do what I can to get these things done on the fly. We're just going to title this Introduction to Sociopathy. Very personal. Very embarrassing. There's no fool like an old fool, my friend said. So I'm going to train you up so you can recognize these people and see them, especially those that are in the positions of power. You need that stuff. You want to know what a sociopath looks like? Well, I would have to say most of your presidents were either sociopaths or sociopathic. So what do you think Barack Obama is? Now, I think Biden is dead. That's what I think. Prove me wrong. I think LBJ was sociopathic. Richard Nixon was sociopathic. He actually trained the shooting team that took out Kennedy. He was the one that put that together under Eisenhower. And Eisenhower was also guilty. He knew about the assassination before it went down. Your presidents recently have taken part in murder, if not in the outright murder, in the cover-up. And that includes your Trump, the chump, Donald Trump, the Antichrist, as some of my friends are starting to call him, and as Marina Abramovich has identified. That's right. She said he's the Magi. He's the magician. He's going to unite the world. What do you think Marina Abramovich is? Pretty bizarre stuff. We need to not tolerate any of that. This coexistence, how's that working for you? It's not working too good, is it? Yahweh bless.